Happy Inauguration Day. Alright, what is up, y'all? Summer here. Let's talk photography. So, sorry I'm a little late. I was supposed to post this video yesterday, but as some of you know, as I've already mentioned, I'm a professor and this is our first week of school. I've been really swamped making sure that my classes are ready to go for all the amazing students that are trusting me with their educational journey this semester. So I got a little bit behind on producing a YouTube video, but here we are today. I'm gonna post this video today and I'm creating it today. So let's get into it. Today is part 2. I'm saying today a lot. Today. Alright, so right now we're gonna look at part 2 of I built my own Jobo alternative. I'm gonna show you where I am in the process, show you what parts I use, what solutions I've come up with so far, and we're gonna do a quick little test. We're not going to develop film today. I'm going to hold off on that for a moment because I still have a few construction related things to do to the unit, but I'm going to show you how it would function in a simulated dry run. And just like the last video, the parts that I am using, I'm going to put them in the description below. So if you decide you want to build your own unit, between last video and this video, you'll have all the links you need to buy the components to pull it all together, right? All right, let's get to it. So before we look at the unit as a whole, we're going to look at some of the individual components. This is what I built out in order to run my engine. I have a clip of what it looked like building out or constructing rather all of these electrical components. Let's go ahead and take a look at that now. Components, they were pretty simple to put together, as you could see. You need the right tools in order to crimp the connectors onto the wires, but other than that, all of these parts were pretty easy to construct. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what each component is. This guy is my battery. I talked about that in the last video. This guy is my speed control unit. I also mentioned it in the last video as well. This allows me to control the speed that the motor turns. Now, this is the motor that I'm experimenting with on this first go round. It works really well. It's a high torque motor, which is important because it's going to be turning a whole lot of weight. It's going to be turning the weight of my development tank full of fluid, as well as trying to help these canisters, the PVC canisters that are going to be doing the rotating motions, helping that cut its way through water. In terms of the setup, it's really simple. The battery connects into the speed control unit, and then that connects into the motor, and then all of these parts are disconnectable. They can be disconnected from each other, and this connector allows me to charge the battery with the battery charger that is off camera right now. So these are the components. Oh, there's one more. And then this guy here that we see leading its way into the canister. This is, for me, in the way that I built my system, it's a really important unit. This is the, what is it called? Power shaft drive. I can't remember the name of this, but I'll make sure to put the information on the screen so that you can know. What makes this so important for me is the battery I'm using is not a water resistant, waterproof, or the motor I'm using is not a water resistant, waterproof motor, which means it has to be outside of the housing. I do have other motor options that I purchased that are water resistant, so I'm going to be experimenting for a little while to see what will work best to run this unit. So I needed this guy in order to allow the motor to run the system without having to be inside the water. I haven't fully cemented everything in yet, but this guy, this hole, there's a hole in the tank that's going to be completely closed off and sealed around this. And then this specific thing, it allows for the shaft to turn and engage with the canisters without having to turn itself. There's like ball bearings in it. Sorry, I don't know the official terminology for all these things. All I know is it does what I need it to do, right? So these are the individual parts that I'm working with. For right now, I just simply have this taped together in order to do the test, but later I'm gonna go get this, it's like a cement putty, like a steel putty that hardens to the like tensile strength of metal. So I'm gonna go get some of that later on and use that to connect the shaft to the containers that they're going to be turning. Right? So these are my parts. Let's go ahead and take a look at the unit as a whole. Alright folks, so this is my unit as a whole, and it's big on purpose. I wanted it to be this way. Yours, you don't have to build it out to this size if you don't want to. There's different options that you can go with, but for me, because I have dedicated darkroom space and I have room for this system to live all the time without taking away space from other things that I need, I decided to build it large. I wanted to go with, this is just a simple storage container. I went with one that has wheels on it because it'll be heavy and it'll be nice to be able to transport this easily if and when I need to. But for the most part, it's going to live under the sink in my darkroom. Now, the reason why I wanted a system like this is because I wanted to be able to free up the actual sink in my darkroom and not have to use it for this purpose. So I'll be able to have the trays in my sink for developing either sheet film or for developing prints, and I won't have to move a unit in the sink and out the sink and in the sink and out the sink. It'll be able to have its own home, and I really wanted that to be the case. Now, I also wanted to be able to use it in multiple ways. I'm going to do a few more modifications to this. My sous vide is going to be connected to this tank as well, but I have to cut the walls down. So on this side, I'm going to cut a slit in the walls that come down to about here, and then my sous vide will hang on this portion of the tank into the water. And then on the back side of the tank, I left room so that I could put in my half-gallon jugs, or actually I think they're full gallon. Yeah, I could put in my full gallon jugs of chemicals so that they can heat themselves up. My 5-roll tank uses a large amount of chemicals, so it's a lot easier to heat it up by the gallon than it is to try to heat it up in any other way. So I'll be able to put my gallon jugs in here so that I can heat up my chemicals as I need. Now, I'm pretty sure because of the way this system is going to work with the constant agitation, I'll be able to use a lot less chemical than I do when I'm agitating by hand. But that'll all be a part of the experiments and the tests that I run, getting myself acclimated to working with this system. So inside of the tank here, I have, and I'll zoom in on it so that you can see all of the different parts that are happening. But inside of the tank here, I have my PVC pipe mounted to the plexi as we saw in the previous video. And then I have it slightly lifted from the bottom of the whole entire unit. So that's going to allow me to be able to put in enough water so that it can heat up my chemicals and not fully submerge the unit in water. That's why I decided to raise it. This particular tank, or this particular container, worked perfectly for me because there is a lip, and I was able to use that lip to set the height, and the height is exactly what I was looking for. So I used that lip to set the height, and then I used other plastic components to prop up the other side. This is permanently mounted inside of this container, or semi-permanently mounted. I have it adhered down with silicone, so it could be removed if it needed to be. But yeah, that's the system I'm working with. And if I wanted to add in my jugs of chemicals, they fit perfectly inside the back half of this unit, right? So that's the logistics of what this looks like and how this works. Let's watch it run. Let's give it a test. So I have my canister here that is full of my working parts, as well as developer. There's water in this tank to simulate the weight of developer. I'm going to go ahead and put it inside of here where it belongs. And this whole system is going to be housed inside of an acrylic box that will also be attached to this unit. The acrylic box doesn't come in until tomorrow, so I'm waiting on the arrival of that specific unit. But it'll also be attached to this container, and it will house the engine and keep it stabilized and perfectly in place. For now, I'm going to hold it with my hand while I show you how the unit itself works. So this guy will also be mounted to the system as well, so it'll make it easy for me to access, to turn it on and turn it off, so everything is nice and stabilized. When it's not in use, I will disconnect the motor from the unit as well as the battery, and this will remain in place. Right? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do a test run. Oops, forgot to connect the battery. 1 second. There you go. Alright, so I'll go ahead and do a test run. I'll turn it on. And I'll keep the motor stabilized with my hand as we turn it up. So this is low power, higher, and this is full speed. So right now, this mechanism, here we go. For right now, this mechanism is held in place with tape only. So it's really strong tape, but it's held in place with tape only. So the material I'm going to use to actually stabilize the system is going to be pretty, I think pretty foolproof. It'll do its job well. My main concern is the amount of draw that the engine, the amount of energy that the motor has to use in order to rotate the system. Like I said, I did get a motor that can handle a lot of torque. There are some other motors made by the same company that can handle a little bit more. So we'll see how this one does. I may burn it out. If I do, it's fine. It's a part of the experiments. It was only like 11 bucks to purchase this motor. So if I burn it out, I have room to experiment with other motor options. But overall, I'm ecstatic at how the system works. I could not be happier with how it turned out. The rotation speed is on point for what I was aiming for. And it just does its job really, really well. So I'm excited about that. All right, let's turn it off. I'm so excited for how this system is turning out. When I started out on this journey, I had no idea how it was going to work, if it was going to work, any of those things. And honestly, to see it at this stage functioning in the ways that I thought it would, I'm mind blown. And just, yeah, I'm mind blown by that, by it functioning in the ways that I thought it could and would potentially function. Now, of course, I have more tests to run. I don't have any water inside of the actual containment unit right now. So I have to run more tests. I have to fill it up with water. The reason I'm not testing it with water right now is because the engine isn't fully protected yet. The motor isn't fully protected yet. I need to go out and grab a few more supplies so that I can fully close up that hole, secure the connection between the drive shaft, that's what it's called, between the drive shaft and the canisters that it's rotating. So I didn't want to run any risk that water may get into the motor and damage it before I could run any more tests on the unit. But other than that, I'm really excited. I'm going to run my first roll of film through it probably this weekend and see how that pans out, see how it does with its first roll of film. I got some film developed through a local photo lab here in Berkeley, and the results between what they have been getting and between what I've been getting and what they gave me were really stellar, night and day. So I'm learning that I do have room to grow with my color film development. Now, the thing is, I'm not sure if the issue is in my development or if the issue is in my scanning. I'm still figuring those parts out, but those photos were stellar. This is what they look like. And I'm just blown away by how well they came out and how well the scans came out. It like renewed my love for shooting 35 millimeter. Not that my love was waned in any way, but it definitely, waned? Diminished. It's not that my love for 35 millimeter was diminished in any way, but the scans I was getting out of my V600 were not making me happy at all. So I wasn't that jazzed on shooting 35 millimeter because scanning it with my V600, it just wasn't doing it any justice. And those shots are mixed between 35 and 120. But they did a really good job, and it got me jazzed about shooting more 35 millimeter, right? So this is where I am with the unit, and I am really happy with it. And I want to tell you that though there was some trial and error involved, the overall process of making this was really simple and really easy. You can do this yourself. Now, you don't have to use a tank as big as I did. I went this big because it fits my needs, and I wanted the unit to be semi-permanently adhered into some type of housing. But you could make the plexiglass unit with the PVC pipe and use it in your existing sink system, especially if you get a waterproof motor. Then you can just submerge the whole thing in your existing sink, and you don't have to have this large encasement like I'm working with, right? There are definitely other options for how the system can play out. I do have to say, one of the reasons why I wanted to adhere it in this tank as well is because I was worried about it floating in water, and that may be something you have to contend with if you're going to take the plexiglass unit and just put it in your sink. It may stay down in water, it may float. I haven't fully tested it to know for sure if that even really would have been a problem, but it was something I was worried about happening, and so I don't have that concern anymore with this tank that I built out. Yeah, so that's where I am with this. I appreciate you watching and following along with this journey. I have a few new subscribers. I appreciate you deciding to take this photo journey with me, and to amplify my voice. And yeah, I'm just happy to have you. If you're watching the video and you aren't subscribed, show the channel some love. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. It helps me out immensely. Comment below. Ask any questions that you may have. I will be sure to answer them and show you love as you show me love. For now, that's all I have. Until next week, y'all. Peace.